Hey Pokemon fans, Real Mama Eagle here, also known as Key, and since there are 9 Pokemon generations, I figured why not do 9 Pokemon hot takes? These opinions are based on my own, just my general feelings about certain things in certain Pokemon generations. Keep in mind these are not popular opinions, which is why they're called hot takes, and me calling something overrated does not mean it's bad. These takes are also in no particular order, but before we get into them, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below letting me know what Pokemon hot takes you have. Now let's get started. Generation 1's Pokedex is very basic. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some bops of designs in Generation 1 I still love to this day, like Dragonair, like Charizard, like Gyarados, like Lapras, like Marowak, and so on and so forth. But Gen 1's Pokedex gets so much praise as being a Pokedex with so many elite designs, only because it was the first generation and people have emotional attachment to this. I said this in a previous video, but that definitely is an issue. Therefore, we let designs that aren't so great pass, like Execute literally being a pile of X, Tangela being a bush with eyes, and then Golden and Sea King being very literal fish, Krabby being a very little crab. So Gen 1 is really praised as being super innovative when in reality, it's literally just them putting animals into a game that we could see out in our everyday lives, with the exception of a few. In my opinion, Gen 6 has one of the best Pokedexes in the series. I don't know how unpopular this is, but this Pokedex is full of bangers, and it really makes up for the lack of lore and story that Gen 6 had overall. But you had all those great new fairy types, particularly Sylveon and Slurpuff. Those are two of my favorites. But you also had great Pokemon like Aegislash and Meowtistic, Noivern and Goodra, 2 dragons I just adore, and I like the group of starters. I know it's popular to hate Chestnut and Delphox, but I think it's a very underrated group as a whole. But you have some good bird Pokemon. I love Talonflame, some good bugs and Pavilion, even Diggersby, a good Pokemon, Go-Go, a nice grass Pokemon. Just a well-balanced Pokedex with a lot of great designs and a lot of different types that you could use throughout the game. So if you have never played Gen 6, I would say go back and enjoy some of those Pokemon because that Pokedex is amazing. Give Generation 7 its flowers. Generation 7 to me is one of those generations that over time has actually become better and become appreciated as far as we get away from it. It's funny, it seems like a lot of generations that are universally hated at first do grow over time with lots of love. Gen 3 and Gen 5 are other great examples, but we really don't appreciate the unique game that Gen 7 was. Although I was not a big fan of the trials, I do applaud Gen 7 and Game Freak for doing something new because it was an interesting challenge to the game. Gen 7 also gave us those beautiful islands, that beautiful region, some great story elements with Luzamine, Lily, Guzma, and more, and of course you had the lovely episode in Ultra Sun and Ultraman with all the former criminal bosses you got to fight again. Not to mention the Ultra Necrozema battle, which lives rent-free in my head because it was so amazing, and then of course the Twisted Aether Foundation. And this gen also had a great Pokedex showing some really cool new Pokemon, really giving us some cool new grass types, some cool new bugs, and ultimately just very versatile. So this generation may have been unpopular because again, it was a handheld and it was also a gen that took away gems, but has become much more valuable the more time passes. Now, this hot take shouldn't be super surprising, as I've said this in my review of Scarlet and Violet. Gen 9 is a fantastic gen that entered a lot of new elements that we're going to enjoy in future generations, and it's very fun. But Gen 9 is slightly overrated because it's empty. And I know people are really excited to explore the open world in Paldea, and Paldea is a stunning region, but the most fun you have in Paldea is when you're out and about in the fields interacting with Pokemon because there's nothing to do in the towns but go to the gym. And as much as I hate to say this, I do like the fact that in older generations, I could walk into houses, interact with townies, get the lore of the town, get some random fun items. Now towns are just a pit stop, and NPCs in town, they just have a bunch of text above their head when you talk to them. You don't even really get to talk to them anymore. It's kind of like cheap in a sense, but I really hope that when they do make Gen 10, they decide to make towns a staple again. But that empty feeling is why Gen 9 is not a very top gen for me, but still very good. I just wish it wasn't so empty. I'm sorry, shiny hunters, this one's for you. And I want to preface by saying that if you do like the shiny hunt, keep doing you. I'm not telling anyone that they shouldn't shiny hunt, but for me personally, I can't justify spending days and days on end hatching thousands of eggs just to get one shiny. It just feels like a waste of time. But I will say that in the games nowadays, it is much easier to shiny hunt with items like the shiny charm. And then of course in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, it was way easier to hunt for shinies because it was just an easier game that made that happen. And shinies are much easier to find in current gens, which is why shinies over time have lost their luster to me. It was more fun in earlier generations. Oh goodness, I sound like a Gen 1er. But it was more fun in earlier generations when you ran into a shiny at random and were so excited and you caught it. And of course you didn't have a million tricks to help you out. It was pure RNG and pure luck. So I do think shiny hunting's lost its luster because it's so much easier to do now. And I, in general, just don't care for shiny hunting. Don't ask me if I want shiny Pokemon. It's time to talk about Legends of Arceus. Now, don't throw tomatoes at me because this is not a hate speech. I actually think Legend of Arceus was a fun game, and I do hope they keep making installments based off other regions. But I gotta say, as a Pokemon fan base, it's definitely been overrated by a lot of people. Don't get me wrong, there's new elements that they put in Arceus that you can clearly see in Gen 9, and it shows, and things they should have kept. I also think that a lot of the Hisuian forms, even though I don't care for regional forms as much, I do think that Legends of Arceus executed regional forms better than any other game so far. But I have to say, as far as the game itself, kinda empty. You really only have Jubilife Village to explore, but when you're not exploring Jubilife Village, you're pretty much walking around in pretty much an open area of wildlife and a bunch of nothing. But people think that's cool because you can interact with the Pokemon live, and that's great. But it's a lot of emptiness, and I think that just having the Pokemon interact with you in the wild is not enough to make up for that. Story's pretty solid, but outside of those things, you're pretty much just going around doing a bunch of repetitive missions when it comes to field research. Why do I need to do a strong style move 30 times in order to get the Pokedex fully complete for one Pokemon? It just felt like a quest with too much field research and not enough focus on making the world much better, because they could have made Hisui a lot less boring in my opinion. But because of the emptiness it offers, makes Legends of Arceus a very overrated game for me. This is probably going to be one of the most controversial hot takes in this video, but I'm not sorry, and that is that Nuzlockes ruin the Pokemon experience. Now, I do understand the importance of some people using Nuzlockes for content on their YouTube videos, their Twitch streams, etc. But as someone who just wants to play the game and have a good time, Nuzlockes actually make the experience worse. You get stuck with all these arbitrary rules, and once a Pokemon faints, you can't use them. And I get very attached to Pokemon I catch and use, so having a box of Pokemon I love would honestly really upset me, not to mention the rules where you can only catch the first Pokemon on a route. It just makes the game more stressful than enjoyable, and you really don't plan for things like unnecessary critical hits or just random things in the RNG that could affect your Nuzlocke. But they honestly just make the experience of Pokemon more stressful, and Pokemon's meant to be fun and enjoyed with whatever Pokemon you want, not ones that you have to use. Regional forms may be super creative to some, giving Pokemon a fresh new appearance or giving Pokemon love that they didn't get in a previous generation. But to me, regional forms are just an excuse for Game Freak to pander to old Pokemon and not make new ones. And to me, some of the best generations were when we got a complete reset and got a bunch of new Pokemon, like in Gen 5 and Gen 3, for example. There are some good regional forms I do like. I do like Galarian Ponyta, I do like Alolan Vulpix, but then we get Alolan Persian and Berserker and Galar, and we didn't really ask for those. And then we get just a bunch of weird random forms that they could have kept. I thought that Galarian Golem and that whole evolution line, what was the point? It was just weird for me personally, but I really wish they'd take the time to make new and creative designs as opposed to pandering. I understand they probably want to get someone who didn't play Pokemon in between Gen 1 and 7 and with all those Alolan forms of Gen 1 Pokemon. I get it, fine, but for people that have played the series for more than one generation, can we see some new Pokemon? Please do that in Gen 10. This one may make the comments section go a little bit wild, but you all have overhyped Whitney. Now, in previous videos, I have mentioned that Whitney can definitely be a pain, but Whitney gets overpraised as if it's a tough battle on Cynthia's level or Steven Stone's level, like she's some elite OP Elite 4 member like Drake or Glacia, and she's not even close, she's just a regular trainer. Depending on what version you play, the original or the remake, Whitney's Miltank is going to be at level 20 or 19. Unless you're seriously under-leveled, it can't be an impossibly hard battle, especially if you come with some strategies. Do what I do, get that Eevee, use some Sand Attack that build gives you. You can also get a rock Pokemon, therefore rollout wouldn't be effective, or you can find a Pokemon that has a fighting move and wipe out that Miltank with one hit or two. But a lot of people overhype Whitney based off nostalgia and the fact that she was really the first challenging trainer you played in the game, but come on y'all, she's not as unbeatable as you think she is. I would love to know if you agree or disagree with my hot takes in the comments below. Don't drag me too hard, but definitely explain why you feel the way you do, and drop any hot takes you may have about the Pokemon series. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well, and ding that bell so you know when videos are up. I am also Real Mama Eagle on all social media platforms, and I do live streams at twitch.tv/RealMamaEagle. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.